Albertson, Missi, Peckham, and D. Black, three wonderful women spreading the word and being way showers. Really some positive energy that we need in the world right now. And before we get started, I really wanted to come into our heart, put both of our hands on our heart, and anybody watching this as well, and just bring that energy from your head down to your heart, and breathe that love in, and then send it out. And really feel that deep connection with each other in the world. Radiate that out. Thank you so much. And Dee, would you like to set the intention for this meeting?
Sure. I wanted to set a general intention for the four of us, as well as for anybody who's listening to this recording later, as well as to anyone who is receiving the resonance of the energy that's rippling out from us. And in the same way that, you know, you don't want to do a Reiki session on a non-local Reiki session on someone who doesn't want it, I just want to honor the people that are not into all of this and not want to impose anything upon them. But for those of us who are really into transitioning out of 3D and out of 3D consciousness and out of the 3D reality and into 4D and 5D, that we, the intention for all of us is that we continue to develop our awareness of what we are beyond these physical bodies, and to live more and more from that lightness and freedom, and bring that into our lives, into our world.
So be it. Thank you, Dee. Thank you. So it seems like one of the biggest issues right now going on is just kind of a mass frustration with so many of us waking up to what's going on with the cabal, with the dark forces, that sort of thing. And then so many people just not wanting to get involved. Either they don't believe it at all, they like, oh, that's craziness, all the way to the extent of, yes, I believe it's there, but I don't want to pay any attention to it because it's negative, and I make my reality, so I don't want anything to do with that. What are your thoughts on that?
Can I go?
Absolutely.
Well, they're absolutely correct, and they do create their reality. So if somebody is saying, I don't want to see anything negative and I don't want to hear anything negative, I normally just say to them, you're absolutely right, and I honor your desire to keep your vibration high and create your own reality and be on that timeline. And I just honor them for where they're at, because I think everyone has a role to play in this. Like you said in the beginning, we have soul contracts, and some people are meant to go out into the street and protest for the other people to see what's really happening and what's really going on in the world. And, you know, everyone from Trump to Putin to Hillary Clinton, they all have a soul contract and they all have a role to play. So, you know, without labeling things as good or bad or evil or of the light, I mean, I think it's, for me, it goes back to the law of one. And if you haven't delved into that material, the law of one, it's helping me to get into 5D consciousness, because as far as I know, what I've heard about 5D consciousness, it's about unity. And so when somebody's trying to argue with me, that's about them, that's not about me. And so I'll usually say something like, your judgment is about you, and may you be blessed, or just whatever is going to contribute to them and their soul's evolution, because that's where I'm coming from, is like, how can I contribute to other people and their evolution? And arguing with them is not going to contribute to their evolution. So I just honor their path. And it's taken me a really long time to get to that place, because I don't like arguing, and I do get defensive when people start to judge me. But I've had the tools of access consciousness for about 5 years, and that's really helped me a lot with judgment. So judgment is always a lie, and judgment is never about, if you think about the judgments that you've had about other people, it's always about you. It's never about them. So if you're looking at somebody and you're saying, wow, that person's so overweight and that's gross, and I don't like that, and I don't like to see that, that judgment's not about them, it's about you. So that's kind of where I'm coming from with it. And that's just my interesting point of view. And yeah.
We all have an interesting point of view, that's for sure, isn't it? Yeah, but no, you're absolutely right. And one thing right now that you're hearing a lot of is, that's just like President Trump. He's not stepping in right now to Seattle and these other places because he wants them to show their hand. It's a lot of people have to be shown. They can't be told. Nobody wants somebody to come in and tell them what to do or what's going on. They have to be shown, and then they have like, well, that's not right. And then one thing leads to another, and then they start researching. So yeah, I agree with you, Missi. What do you think, Tiffanie?
I love what you said, Missi, about it's more about us. I mean, I really think that there's realities that we hold on to from our past stories we refuse to let go of, that, you know, impact where we are and what we see and what is sensitive to us. And I think even in my evolution, because I think I'm not as far along as you are, but I think I'm really openly advanced. I don't know if I have the terminology, but really just letting go of some of those past stories lets you release so much about other people and how their energy impacts you. So I like what you said, Missi, about just staying in your like consciousness and letting them go, and knowing it's what we feel we might try and impart on them, but when we release it, it really is a matter of us letting our stories go.
Absolutely. And so much forgiveness.
Yes.
Yes. So Dee, this really works in, because you're a reality transurfer and really do a lot of studying. How do you incorporate this into your life?
Yeah, well, the thing about reality transurfing, or just physics in general or anything, is that, you know, there's the space of variation. So it's like there's not one reality out there, and there's not one objective reality, you know, like it's every single being is experiencing in their own way. And so that's one of the things that I as well am really working on, because to really honor everybody's experience, because I have this thing in me that I always wanted, you know, in my previous, you know, life or whatever, adult or whatever, I just wanted everybody to see the world the way I see it, until I finally am realizing like everybody sees it differently and everybody experiences it differently. And there's a lot of, it's like an intricate tapestry, right? So a lot of it, our lives are interweaving with each other. But, you know, the thing that I'm really investigating right now is how much of our individual reality is what we are actually experiencing versus what we are told is happening, right? Because it's like, you know, we are told, and like many people spend a lot of time listening to reports, you know, whether these reports are coming from mainstream media or from their trusted sources or whatever, but like, how much of the reality is reports? This is happening. No, this is happening. No, it's happening like this. No, it's happening like that. And it's like, but are you there? Like, I have not been in a protest myself. I like that, you know, I'm being told, and I'm being shown videos, right? So you're being shown videos. Here's this cop killing this guy. And it's like, it's a freaking video. I don't know if it's real, because it's like you reach this point where you go like, what are you supposed to believe when you're just being shown stuff? Look at this. And it's like, okay, there's all of that, and like what percentage of that is a person's reality, and what percentage is what they're experiencing, right? Like I experienced, you know, my kids come over, you know, for Sunday brunch, and we have brunch and we laugh, you know, and then my friends and I go for a walk, you know, and then we, you know, now we can grab a beer again, you know, and all that. But it's like, so what is reality, you know, like, and how much of it is really real, you know? It's just a question, and I seem to be living more and more in questions, right? Like how much of how I experience it reality is how much what you experience as reality. And then there's that whole thing that the bottom line or the core, the essence is, this is the surface story, because we're infinite, eternal beings. And the more I get in touch with that, the more light I feel, the more freedom I feel, and the more I can honor everybody's experience, knowing that, you know, one day, you know, we are going to be shedding these bodies, right? And then what's next, you know? And, or is it all happening at once? I mean, there's just so many questions, you know, but it's so interesting to watch this thing that's unfolding on the world stage, right? Because it's kind of like, there are dark forces in 3D, you know? And, oh, and just one other thing I'll say is that in the space of variations, the thing is that we can't get rid of dark forces. Like, we can't get rid of anything that's happening because everything already exists. So if it exists, you can't get rid of it. You can't make it not happen, but we can move our state of being and our state of consciousness and our reality to different dimensions, you know, where these things are not happening. So it's not a matter of making the dark forces go away. It's a matter of transitioning to where we've transmuted them or whatever, you know, because they exist in the Akashic record. You can't wipe out the Akashic record, if any of that is true. So I don't know. It's a mystery.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, we are given a false narrative. I mean, really, the only true thing is love. That's the only true thing. And the false narrative doesn't want us to focus on unity, focus on love, because the false narrative feeds on that negativity and separation. And if they see a crack, they're going to go right into the crack and feed that as much as possible. So it's so important to, like you said, question the reality, because unless you're there looking at it, really how do you know that it's real? And question everything, you know, and then that's when.
And even if you're there looking at it, it could be staged as well, right? Like, people are going, oh, those cameras are conveniently located, right? That's what some of the people are saying. But the thing to always get back to is, but this is the 3D world, right? So how much are we identifying with the 3D world, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And the 3D world is duality. You know, you have to have the dark to have the light and that sort of thing. So yeah, the Matrix.
You know what?
Isn't that the truth?
Unplugging from the Matrix is shut off the news and the reports, because the more reports and news you listen to, the more you're plugged into the Matrix.
Right.
You're being fed is reality. But yeah, they, like the dark forces in 3D, they can't handle the light, right? And so it's like, I have absolutely no fear of them whatsoever. And I never have, even as a child, I had this feeling like I had, you know, I'd have dreams where, you know, something bad would be coming after me, and I'd go like, the power of God can, I can beat you with the power of God, you know, because that's what I learned as a child was God. But it's like, they can't handle the light, you know, and that's why David Icke is safe, you know, that's why they can't kill him. He's protected, because it's like when you're so connected to the light, they can't get you. And that's why in the 3D world, they're afraid, because they're trying everything and grasping at straws to try to, you know, get people to divide and fight with each other, because more and more people are tuned into the light, you know, more and more, you know, it's exponential almost what's happening. People you never would have thought would have, you know, been interested in spirituality or this kind of thing are getting interested now. It's amazing.
Right. And for years and years, I noticed that the spiritual environment, you know, you'd go to a lot of seminars, that sort of thing. I was kind of the odd one out a lot of times, because I was aware of this narrative, and I would question people, and they would get irritated because they wanted to keep it all lovey-dovey, woohoo, that sort of thing. And I'm like, man, you just don't know what's going on, you know. And it was kind of like, for a long time, I was the odd one out, and I love it so much now that this community is growing together, waking up to what's going on in the false narrative, such as, you know, like a lot of the Black Lives Matter and the Antifa going down that hole with the false narrative. And now they're saying, wait a minute, I think I'm being played here. You know, so it is really a mass awakening, and I'm really happy to be part of it. And we all signed up for it. I mean, it's our soul contracts that we're here at this time because we are way showers. We are that. And as much as sometimes I want to opt out and just say, forget it, I think something taps me on the shoulder and says, wait a minute, that's not what you signed up for. And Magenta Pixie made a good point in one of her videos that the contracts that we made from the very beginning, the soul contracts, were love and light and, learning lessons. And along that, it got hijacked to where the cabal, the dark forces, came in and kind of hijacked that. And we basically we came along and became slaves to their agenda. So that's what we're waking up to now.
Yeah.
So I'm really proud of everybody, going down this course, and I'm proud to be here with all of you because we are the way showers. So any suggestions how to do that more?
I think it's important to claim your sovereignty as an infinite being. I mean, we are infinite beings and we are sovereign beings. And you mentioned Magenta Pixie. She has a wonderful video on the 3 steps to ascending to the 5D reality. The first step is to know the plan. And once you're familiar with the plan, she says the second step is to declare your sovereignty. So I kind of do that every day when I see something that goes against my soul or offends my soul. I say, I do not consent. I am a sovereign being and I do not consent. And then the third step, what's the third step, Jamia?
I don't remember.
The third step is, forgiveness. So she says you have to do it 1, 2, 3, because if you just go straight to forgiveness,
right.
Like you see something that's horrifying, like this adrenochrome child trafficking thing, you can't just go straight to, oh, I forgive you for that, because then she says if you don't claim your sovereignty and say I do not consent to that type of that type of criminal activity towards humanity, I do not consent to being controlled in any way. I do not consent to what you're doing. If you don't say that first and you go straight to forgiveness, they take it as permission, because from everything I've heard, they have to show us what they're doing.
Yes, that's why the symbolism.
Right.
Symbolism is everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, and we have to give them our permission for them to do that to us. And we give them our permission by just saying, oh, okay, I won't question this.
Yeah.
I personally feel like I need to question everything, like exactly what you guys have been saying, exactly what you said, Dee. When I see this playing out on the world stage, ask yourself those cool questions, like Katie or Byron Katie. I always want to call her Katie Byron.
Yeah,
Byron Katie. Is it true? Is it really true? Is this 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 true for me? Question everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had something to say, but I forgot.
Well, I was going to say one of my friends that is kind of getting woke to the agenda and the false narrative. We were discussing our faith has always kind of been something that kept the doors closed to us out of fear of like going there. But I said, your faith is what will allow you to go there, because you already have the light in your life. So you can't fight, the false narrative if you're not aware of it. So become aware for your knowledge and trust that you're already in the energy that's going to protect you from that in your belief system. So when I shared some things with her that were along the adrenochrome line and stuff like that, I mean, she texted me back and she goes, I had no idea. I'm like, that's how you can use the light for the darkness, is that now you know. So when you were asking, I don't remember exactly how you asked it, but how can we share it? Be thoughtful in how you share with, because sometimes this is intimidating to people. And at the point that I wouldn't have received it, it was because I doubted that the light was strong enough to carry me into that. And now I know I'm fine. The fault, you know, like you said, I won't accept it. It's, Missi, how did you say?
I do not consent.
I do not consent. I know that I can be aware of it and not consent to have it be a part of who I am in my world. But I can know about it, and that makes it more powerful in terms of spreading the light and being the light.
Absolutely.
Because it's like being aware of it, you can shine the flashlight on it, right? And
Yes.
that's how you beat it. You shine the flashlight and you go, I see you and you don't have any power over me and you can't do that, right? Like, go away, mosquito. You know, it's like you got that light and it's kind of like, I got the flashlight, you know, but like, so then if that's why it is important to know, it is important to, for people to think for themselves, right? It's like, you're being told, this is happening, think this, think that. And, you know, especially when the commentators are making the comments, right? You know, it's because like honest reporting reports all sides and doesn't give an opinion, right? And so it's like, so for people to just think for themselves, right, is a huge thing.
That
like,
is
is
a
that
huge
really
thing.
what you're thinking? Or is that what you're told, you know? But it's really
Right.
hard.
Yeah, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, because, you know, it starts when we're children, right? Children were being indoctrinated, you know, like, you know, innocent little children, we're going to school and we're just believing all the adults and we're believing everything they're telling us and we have no reason not to believe, you know, and that's one of the things that I find people say, if I just do a little nudge, if I just ask somebody something about, they think, well, they wouldn't lie to us, they wouldn't do that to us, they wouldn't, you know, and it's this innocent trust in one sense of, well, it can't be happening because that's just too horrible. You know, there aren't pedophiles out there who are torturing children. That's too horrible, right? And it's like, so it's like, again, it's like not having that flashlight, you know, and seeing like,
Yes.
you know, it's that innocent belief that, oh, it's too horrible that people wouldn't do that, you know?
Right.
I don't know.
And when you start studying a little bit and researching, you will see, like currently, the mass rituals that are going on, taking the knee, and just the symbolism and the rituals of the rioting and all of this different stuff. Me personally, it doesn't get me down because I know that God wins. I know the light wins. The light has to win. So it feels good to have friends like you guys, to know that we're in this together, that we share the unity, we share the light, and just kind of stand back and watch. And once you're aware, it really doesn't affect you in a negative way, I don't think. It does. I don't let it come in my energy field anymore. I want the knowledge. I stay, you know, paying attention to what's going on. But now I can look at things and feel good about them, because I know it's being taken care of, ultimately being taken care of. And I trust our president so much, and I pray for him every day, and he's doing so much. And I tend to get a little bit defensive about him, because if somebody attacks him, I almost take it personally, because it's like, you have no idea what he's going through right now. And I just send him that much more love, you know? So I don't know. It's, I try to stay involved, but detached at the same time, and stay in faith. I have more faith right now than I ever have in my life.
Don't you feel like when you get aware of it, it's kind of like you got the answer key to the test, so you don't worry because you're like, I already have the answer. You know, so when people worry, I'm like, the information shouldn't make you worry, because you should already know. So the information is information, but I always feel like I've got the hidden answers, you know, like, if you just knew what I knew, like, I've got the whole answer key. It's gonna be
Yes. The video game cheat codes.
Yes, I have the cheat code.
Exactly.
And I also want to say that we all have the ability to be psychic and to be intuitive and to see into the future. And some of those abilities have been dumbed down in humanity. They've been dumped down by like things like fluoride and additives in our food, and us being told when we were little and we saw like a ghost or something, oh, you didn't see that. Those abilities have been dumbed down in us. So what would it take for us to just own and acknowledge all of our magic, all of our capacities, and all of our power? You know, like that's what I'm about, is empowering myself and empowering other people in every possible way that I can. When I go out into the world and I go to the grocery store and I see those poor people that are like you, Jamia, that have to work with a mask on, my God. And, you know, breath is life, breath is everything. And they're even trying to take breathing away from us. And I look at them and I say, when are they going to let you guys be without the mask? And they always say, oh my gosh, I hope soon, because this is horrible. You know, and I say, well, why do you do it? Why do you wear the mask? And they tell me, oh, because I was told to, and I'm just trying to keep everybody safe. And you know what I always say is, I have faith that God will keep me safe. And they just look at me like they thought of that for the very first time, and they go, oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. Because what it is too is like, I trust my immune system. It's like we have immune systems. We don't need vaccines, so we don't need hand sanitizer. Like, you know what I do? In the grocery store, you're supposed to put on the hand sanitizer. Well, the thing is, that hand sanitizer, it's bad for your immune system, because your immune system wants to work, right? So I pretend I'm putting it on, and the people are so cool, right? Like, they don't even pay attention. Like, they don't care. Like, they just have to keep their jobs. They have to do things, you know, like I wipe the cart, I did, you know, and it's like everybody's just going along playing the game, but it's like I pretend I'm putting it on and I'm not even putting it on. And it's like, and I've never put on a mask, but where I live, we don't have to wear the masks, right? But some employees have to, or that kind of thing. But you know, I was thinking the other day, like, you have two people crossing paths, and one is wearing a mask and one isn't. And then I think about the internal, what's going on, because the person, especially when I see them driving cars and walking down the street alone, because it's like, who's around you? But I'm thinking, like, that person is thinking about the person with the mask is thinking about the person without the mask. That person is irresponsible. They don't care, you know, they're whatever, because they're not care about other people. They're just being ignorant. And the person who's not wearing the mask is thinking, you're a fool for wearing that mask. It doesn't like, everybody has their own reality and their own, and it's kind of like, so I know that people with masks, they look at me and they think I'm being irresponsible. Right? And I always take a deep breath, because when I see them, I feel like I can't breathe, you know? And but it's so funny. It's like, isn't that one of the biggest clues of all? They're telling you to gag yourself. Like, hello, like, they're telling you to stay away from your friends and gag yourself. Like, if that's not a clue that, you know, it's coming from some kind of, you know, evil agenda.
I miss people's, like, you know, countenance, like their face, like, we wear really like our heart, you know, and our expression or whatever. It is amazing to me, Jamia, I know you've seen this at your work, like the mask makes people bold. It's almost like being on Facebook where they can write hateful comments and no one knows who it is, and rude. And I feel like it covers up who they are. So the unpleasantries they want to share are so much more bold. And then when people are nice too, you like sometimes can't see that either, because you can't see it. So it's keeping us compartmentalized in the same room.
Absolutely, yeah. Then you add the social distancing to it.
The flow.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, then you add the social distancing to it, and it's just, they want to do everything they possibly can in the narrative to separate us out and not be unified. Yeah. So it's just so important to, and like Dee, you were saying, when you walk by someone and they have a mask on or not, you have that in your mind one way or the other. I just try to send out love. You know, if I go to the grocery, I'm not wearing a mask. I'm not. I have to at work, and I try to breathe as much as I can while I'm at work. But if somebody like gives me a glare because I'm not wearing one, I just automatically send them love from my heart, you know, because I think love is an awakening tool. And even if you say one thing to somebody and they might think you're crazy for saying it, you've still implanted that in their mind, that one little idea in their mind.
Mhm.
And if they're meant to know more, something else will be said from somebody else or on social media or something to spark that little intuitive, maybe I should look at this more. So I look at love in the same way, that if you radiate that love and unity to everyone, absolutely everyone,
Yeah.
that's going to wake something up in them. I
Yeah.
really do believe that.
Oh yeah. And even before this pandemic or anything, like that would just be, I would just like to do that. Like I'd walk down the street and every car going by, I'd go like, we're free beings, and everything. And it's like, and it's just like anybody walking down the street and then like just this connection, like, we're infinite beings and we're playing this game that we're on this, we're on Earth and we're humans and we're really, and it's just like, people seem to respond to that also, even if it's just in a glance or a smile or something, because it's like you can really connect with that with strangers. Like, hey, what, like we're so much more than what we're playing, this game that we're playing, and it's like we're in this 3D world, but we're in 4D and we're kind of like transitioning, because it's like that the 4D and the 5D, none of that is happening. None of that, fear and separation is really happening. So we're kind of like in this in-between world where we're really getting more and more in touch with this non-separation, how we're all connected, when at the same time, we're still witnessing these dark forces that are grasping at straws. You guys can like all the dark forces that are trying to do it, they know they're losing. They know it, right? And they're just like, they're coming on really strong now with the manipulation, and it's like they're going down. Mind you, we love them. They're playing a role too, right? Like they're playing a role. Like all these people, like even Hitler. Like Hitler played a role. He played a character, right, in a play or whatever. And it's kind of like he is also a soul, And Trump volunteered to do this. I was one of those people who got sucked into hating Trump only because everybody around me was saying that Trump was an idiot, and now I like him, right? And it's like I don't even want to tell people that so many people in my life, they just think he's an idiot because that's how he's being portrayed, and people are buying into it, right?
What changed your mind about Trump, Dee?
It was kind of gradual. Like my sister had made a comment to me about him, and then I just started hearing things about how he's taking down the dark forces behind the scenes, and like this whole thing is just him being this like idiot, racist or whatever they make him out to be, is just a front for what he's doing, like behind the scenes. So it's just like gradual things that I was hearing about what he's doing. He's taking down the dark forces kind of behind the scenes, and it has to be done behind the scenes, right? Because is that what's happening?
Well, I think a lot of things with Trump too is when I think he's absolutely brilliant, and I think he is one step ahead of everybody else the whole time. And one thing about President Trump is he doesn't care what anybody else thinks. And I think a lot of things that he says or has done, especially at first, I think it was on purpose. So a lot of people didn't know that he was on top of things. And now if you notice that we're really getting into this whole, the election coming up, he's really starting to step into that power that he's always been, speaking his mind and taking a stand. And a lot of people are now, like you, Dee, are saying, oh, well, maybe he's not who I originally thought he was, because it was a narrative. They kept pushing this narrative.
Yeah.
I can remember before President Trump ever even decided to run. It was years before. It was probably 2012, 2013. And I was sitting out on the deck with some of my family, and we were talking about the presidency and the stuff that was going on. And I said, I tell you what, I'm going to be perfectly honest. I wish we had a businessman come in there. And I said, if Donald Trump decided to ever run for president, I would vote for him in a heartbeat. And I said, there's something about that man that I really respect, and I think he'd be. And then like 2 years later, he runs for president. And I'm like, yes. So I was a Trump supporter from day one. And I had so much hate going on. It was like, hey, I'm telling you, I'm following my intuition. And I know this is the right thing to do. And then when his running mate was Hillary, then I knew for sure, because I mean, hello. Yeah.
Well, your intuition's always right. When you know how to check in with yourself and with your heart. And for me, that's what this has been about, is what do I know? And I encourage other people to know what they already know. And, you know, I'm fortunate to have tools for that I can teach to other people. It's basically just how I ended up moving to Savannah. I asked my body, what would my life be like in 5 years if I choose to go to this area? And it was really light. So anything that's light for you is the truth for you, and anything that's heavy is a lie. So if you see something on social media or you hear somebody say something that's heavy, it's a lie. Like the masks have always been super heavy for me, the vaccines. Even when my kids are now in their 20s, and when my kids were little, there's just something in me that just said no. You know, it was heavy before I even had that heavier light tool. It was just heavy, and it's gonna feel heavy to you. It's gonna feel like there's something wrong to you. So trusting that and trusting your inner knowing is what's gonna really, I think, be the key for all of us. And if people would just learn how to trust themselves, like when I ask people, why are you wearing that mask? They say, because my boss told me to, or my doctor told me to, or my wife wants me to wear it, or something like that. They're not questioning it. They're not thinking for themselves, you know? So there is a certain amount of the population that are just going to go along with it. And they are, you know, they might end up dying because they're going along. And this trying to fit in with everybody, I see this playing out everywhere. Just, I got to wear a mask because everybody else is doing it. I've got to get my flu shot because everybody else is doing it, because the TV told me to, because Big Pharma told me to, because my doctor told me to. You know, when you go in to take your baby in for a well baby check, they just give your baby shots without really even asking you. And people are not asking questions and are not informed and are not asking themselves, does this feel heavy or does this feel light? There's a big price to pay for that. So
Absolutely. And we're teaching that and to our next generation too. Like when I'm at work, I notice a lot of people, even the adults, they don't have a mask on, but they have a mask on their kids. And in my mind, I question that, but I mean, they're not my kids. I would never say anything, but I don't know. It just makes me sad, you know, especially when the other day I saw a little baby with a mask on and the mom didn't have a mask on, you know, and I'm thinking you're cutting that air, that oxygen off, that prana off to that, you know, that little baby. So we just have to keep spreading the word and getting information out there. But
that is so heavy. God.
Yes.
Oh.
I'm a big believer, and I know you all are, we're so much better off without the mask, but the mask is symbolic of the mindset, because you're 300 times more likely to come in contact with something and contract it if your mind believes that it's so contagious that you're prone to it. Like we could probably go into a room and be much less likely based on our mindset where we're like, no, not happening. So it's the mask, but it's the mindset. So they go right hand in hand with their immunity, their conscious awareness, their, you know, just, it lowers their energy field. It just drops everything. So yeah, I'll stay without my mask. Thanks.
Yeah,
100%,
absolutely.
100% agree. Our minds are so powerful. If you follow Dr. Bruce Lipton and Dr. Joe Dispenza, they will, yes, Dr. Joe Dispenza, and they will give you, I mean, it's so true. Our minds create our reality, you know, just like reality transurfing and the law of one and the law of attraction. They're all saying the same thing. You create your reality. Nobody else creates your reality. Donald Trump's not to blame for your problems. The IRS is not to blame for your problems. You create your reality.
Yeah. And the number one thing is to own your perception, because our like how we see our world and how we experience our world, it creates our experience, and our experience is our life. Like Your life is everything you've experienced, and everything you experience is based on how you're perceiving what you're experiencing, right? Because things only have the meaning that we give to them. You know, like if someone called you a name or something, it depends on what kind of meaning you make out of it, what that person said, right? It's not what they said. So it's like so much of it, it's like, that's like, and this is the kind of thing that should be taught in schools, right? Like, you know, and I mean, we can teach our children as well, but I mean, it's like self-empowerment. And then that's what I see in the future, you know, happening, you know, even now they're starting to teach meditation and all that, but like a school system that is empowering, where you know, everyone's uniqueness is allowed and their free expression is allowed, and they can know that they're infinite beings, you know, because, and also we don't know everything, right? So one of the problems that adults have with children is thinking to answer every question, because the thing is like, well, where did I come from? Well, we don't know, you know, you were born out of my body or whatever, but it's like we don't really know what's going on in the long run, right? Like we can sense into our infinite nature, and especially when we like meditate or, you know, have those, you know, really connect like that, but like we don't really know what reality is and the magnitude of it. You know, it would be kind of arrogant to think that we do, you know, but we can certainly sense with our hearts, right? Like you were saying, Missi, I love that. It's like, you know, to just always feel what, you know, that feeling of lightness. And also I like that analogy of the lightness, the heaviness. And it's also expansion versus contraction. Because if something makes you feel contracted, you know, then that's not right for you. But if something makes you feel expanded, right? So it's like these different qualities of feeling that we tune into and follow that as our guidance system, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Dee, you make a good point about the school system, because anymore the school system, probably for no telling how many years, we're actually teaching these kids division. We're teaching them victimization. I mean, from a very, very young age. And it's sad because, I mean, how long have we had the adversarial relationship between men and women? I mean, when women were when women were marching for the right to vote and everything, that was a fabulous cause. But then it was hijacked by the false narrative of division. Men are bad, women are good, we're victims, and then it turned into feminism. And now feminism is such a dark place to be, filled with hate, filled with separation, man-hating. That's not where that movement came from at all. Yeah, but these good intentions are hijacked by the cabal, by the false narrative, and used against us because they don't want unity. So the best thing we can do is notice that, especially with our school kids, and teach them about love and unity and living from your heart. And
that they're powerful.
Yeah. We have to teach our kids to take their power back. And Tiffanie, do you have young kids? I don't remember if you have young kids or not.
My youngest is in her second year of college.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, and Missi, you don't have any kids, right?
I have a daughter who's 27 and a son who's 21 and a stepdaughter who's 22.
Well, there you go. I did not know that. I thought you were like really young. You look wonderful.
I was going to say, I thought you were 27.
I did too. Yeah, that's great.
Adrenochrome, by the way. I always, when people ask me how old I am, I say, well, I'm 152 and I look really good for my age.
There you go. There you go. How about you, Dee? Do you have children?
Yes, I have 3 adult children, 33, 32, and 28. Yep.
Did any of you have experiences in school that you really questioned what they were learning?
Yes, and I look back on my own school days and question what was taught to me. But it's obvious the school system is set up to make you sit down and shut up and get in line and, you know, do what we say and respect authority. The only authority that's over me is me and God. That's the only authority I have.
Yeah.
Love it.
Well, and
How about you?
the whole thing does have to be revamped, especially because now we have the internet. Like, you know, before when you had to learn facts, like there's no point in learning facts, right? Right. And also like what facts, like what year this happened, what year that happened, what, you know, and also I don't even know about how true history is, for example, right? History is written by the victors, whatever. But my concern is, or my interesting is my youngest just decided to go back to school just over a year ago to be a teacher, right? So it's going to be interesting to see, you know, how that evolves and how, you know, by the time she graduates, what it's going to be, what it's going to be like to be a teacher. So it's going to be really interesting to watch that. There are some things that she's being taught and that she says that I just don't want to say anything because I don't want to upset her. You know, I have said a few things and I found it upsetting her. So I don't know if she's going to watch this, but, you know, so it's kind of like, I just want to be the silent observer in the presence, you know, and to just watch, because I mean, some of the things that they are being taught are and focusing on and studying and writing papers on are kind of questionable to me, but I don't want to interfere with that, right? It's just, it'll just be I can just be a presence and observe. And, you know, she's an amazing young lady. Like has such a good vibe. Like all three of my kids have a really good vibe. Like they're really high energy and good vibration, and they laugh a lot, and, you know, have, you know, a lot of friends. And so I'm very proud of them as human beings, how they are. So I'm glad about that, you know. So.
Well, also too, a lot of things are coming out too, so I'm sure that she'll evolve in her thinking too if she's going to school now. And who knows, when we get over this, how different school's going to be.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you know, for the better.
Yeah.
But I know my 11-year-old, I have to kind of go back. I talk to him every day about what he's learned, and being a substitute for 3 years a few years ago, I was really surprised on what I saw that they were teaching a lot of these kids. And I mean, we just have to parent them.
Yeah.
My oldest is 24, and he's been exposed to someone who is influential and kind of letting me peel back the layers and see some things. And he and I have great conversations, and it's fun to see how his influence in his awareness of the agenda and what's going on and the narrative, how it's working, and how he is seeing it, and how he's starting to share it with friends, or even like my husband, his dad. He just is planting seeds. So he's so wise about how he's sharing it, so that you can just kind of feel him dripping it, so that the receptiveness is gradual. Yeah. And, you know, he's just not confrontational with it. So I really have kind of enjoyed to see his evolution, because when he learned like that, but he's sharing it slowly. So right. It's out there.
Awesome.
It's out there. Our young people are hearing it, and they're hearing it not just from parents. So sometimes they're teaching it to the parent.
Yeah.
And the millennial time period there that had the most indoctrination, where it was kind of slipped through the cracks and we weren't really aware of what was going on. Mm-hmm. And they kind of got their meat hooks in them. Those are the ones that I'm finding are having a really hard time with this, a really hard time with it. The ones that are
of the Antifa people, they're all in that age group.
Yes, exactly. My 26-year-old son, I mean, he's got that whole indoctrination of that, and my other two are not, but he's 26 and and I try to talk to him, but he won't hear it. He won't have anything to do with it. And I even sent him, you know, lighthearted videos, and, you know, and he is really ingrained in that socialist agenda. And so I'm not going to give up. I mean, I can't give up. I would be doing him a disservice if I gave up. And I send him love.
All we can do is like teach by example, you know, because I understand that too. Like there's things like, you know, my other daughter, she totally believes in the climate thing, because she was traumatized by it, right, in school, and that, like, she's she really believes that the earth, that this climate thing, right? And like I have different views on what earth is than, I don't really talk very much about people, because it's like, to me, earth is a field. It's an energy field. It's not, it doesn't necessarily have, like, I don't even know, it's really hard for me to explain it. This is probably not the time to get into it, but it's just that it's like, we're living in a space, we're living in a field, of energy, frequency, and vibration. And what is currently in our surroundings is what is our reality. And it's like when you're dreaming, right? Like when you're in a dream and you're in a dream space, is there a climate catastrophe going on? Like, you know what it's,
Right.
so it's kind of like, but this is, because it's like we're kind of like living in these different layers, right? Layers of consciousness, of states of being, even like 4D, 5D, these things, they're states of being, they're not places, right? So it's kind of like we're not so much in a place so much as we are in a state of being. I don't know.
Absolutely. I love that, Dee.
Yeah.
Yes. And one thing I would ask people, they would get on the climate agenda, and I'd be like, okay, so you believe in a law of attraction, you believe all of this, I mean, you live your life like that, you believe that, you're an unlimited being. Yes, absolutely. Then how can the earth be limited?
Right.
How can you're fighting for a limitation, but yet you're saying that we're unlimited beings. So you can't have it both ways. We are unlimited. We are unlimited.
Yeah, and also how can you contribute to the earth? Don't just sit back and complain about it and march around on the earth. I mean, the biggest contribution we can be to the earth is to be joy, to be our natural state of joy. That's what the earth requires.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Absolutely.
Yeah, I love it. Like, we're all sending out ripples, right? Every single being is sending out ripples. Even my cats. Where are my cats? Oh, I locked them up so they wouldn't knock over my screen. But they're so patient the way they wait. When I pick them up and put them in the spare room, they know, oh, she's going to put up the screen. But
by the way, Tiffanie had to go. She had a commitment. She said she might opt out after a certain time because she had to be somewhere else. So thank you, Tiffanie,
hi, Tiffanie,
for being here.
Love you.
Yes, absolutely. So does anybody have anything else to contribute or anything that they want to say?
I would just like to say, you said at the beginning, you said something about protecting our energy from the dark forces, and I just wanted to give you guys and whoever is going to be listening to this a tool. So it's called having your barriers down. So I learned this through Access Consciousness. So it's kind of like if you're hiking on a trail and you have your barriers up because somebody told you there's rattlesnakes on this trail. Would you be able to sense the rattlesnake faster with your barriers up or your barriers down? Your energetic walls up or your energetic walls down?
I would think down.
Right. So like if you're in traffic, again, another example, if you're in traffic, it's heavy traffic and people are driving crazy and weaving in and out and you're driving the speed limit and everything, and you're automatically, when we're in a tense or stressful situation, our energetic barriers are going to go up, right? Because that's kind of like our natural sense is to protect ourselves with these, like, as they would say,
barriers. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, they would in Star Trek. Remember when they say shields up or whatever? That's how I always think it.
Okay, yeah.
So our shields are going to go up because we naturally want to protect ourselves. But when you put your shields up, you are also cutting off your ability to perceive, know, be everything. You're cutting off your capacity to be the infinite being that you truly be, right? Because if your barriers are up, you're cutting off your energy to yourself and to the outside world. So instead of thinking of like shielding ourselves and shield up, put the shields down. And when you put the shields down, you really turn up the volume on your awareness. It's just a different way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
So like just right now, ask your barriers to go down So you just imagine, like I like to imagine the sound of an electric car window going down, and just say barriers down in the front, barriers down on the sides, barriers down in the back, barriers down, barriers down, barriers down. And just tell me if you can sense anything different in your body when you put your barriers down.
Openness.
Yeah, so just like if you want to practice that when you go out into public or you're out in the grocery store and everybody's got their representation of a barrier over their face, or they've got their phone up to their face, another barrier. People put up physical barriers as well as energetic barriers, and just have your barriers down and see what happens.
Missi, how is that different from, like, I know a lot of times if I do a nightly meditation with Michael Jaco, and he does a live stream every night that I absolutely love. And before we go out and we send love or we do anything, we put a golden ball or a light around us for that physical protection. Is that, I mean, obviously that would be something totally different. How would you explain the difference in those two things?
I think a golden ball of light or light, I mean, we are light. We have, I have a golden ball of light inside of me, and I can shine that out, right? I'm an infinite being. I can know, be, receive, and perceive everything. So if you are if you're visualizing a beautiful ball of golden light around you, is it to protect you or just to enhance the energy that you already are? And to
both.
Like, to expand out instead of contracting, expanding out that energy. And I ask for my energetic team, my angels, my guides, to not only watch over me while I sleep, but work on my physical body. And I always wake up feeling better, more energized, more healthy. So it's just different ways of looking at it,
Sure, absolutely. A lot of people ask a good way to be in touch with their energy guides, their guardian angels. Everybody has a different term for that. What do you all think is a good way to get in touch with that?
To ask?
Yeah.
Yeah. I always say hi to them and thank them.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. Sometimes I think we complicate things more than what they need to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Tiffanie, we lost you for a while. So we thought you were gone.
Sorry, I told you I might have something right around
Yes.
2:30, and so I'll probably have to attend to that. But
I better go to Jamia.
Yes. Okay, well, before we go, Tiffanie, did you have something you wanted to say?
no, I was just going to say the way we met, I think, is an example of the energy fields just always being open and available, because I just totally believe in that.
Yeah, it was kind of just boom right there, wasn't it?
Yeah, like instant.
Yeah, I love
You
it.
felt it?
Total instant connection. Yeah, and it was like, I don't know, soul
I mean,
sisters
we
or
exchanged
something. Pretty cool.
numbers. It was just like
Immediately.
right there. Yeah.
What was this?
We're all finding each other, right?
Absolutely. Yes. And thank you guys for being here today. And
Thank you.
I do want to acknowledge, though, for the inspiration of this video, Patricia Cory, Magenta Pixie, and Laura Eisenhower. I love you guys, and you
Absolutely
are the inspiration here. And maybe
we love you.
Yes, we had 6. One couldn't meet at the time. Then we had a 5-pointed star, and then something happened, and so it ended up being 4, and now we're a cube.
A diamond.
Whatever. Yeah, a diamond. So real quick, if everybody has time, I would like to read this real quick. That's what we talked about earlier about the conscension. So are you guys good with it? You have time? Just a couple minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. There is only one law of God, of universal law of love. I do not consent to social distancing and masking my voice. I do not consent to forced vaccination. I do not consent to forced incarceration, control, or slavery in any manner. I do not consent to merging self with AI. I do not consent of dark forces interfering in my energy field. I am the divine manifestation of God's will as a way of life, love, and service for every human being evolving on earth. I do consent to God as freedom, God is light, God is love, grace, peace, purity, balance, health, abundance, kindness, unity, happiness, and harmony. I am an open door for the will of God. I am that I am, so be it.
Woo! Those words make me feel so happy.
All right. I love you guys. Hopefully we can do this again soon.
Namaste.
All right.
No
Bye, guys.
mask.
No mask.
No mask.